Hello, welcome to the Monroe County Music Archive, where today I'm going to be reviewing the new album from Tim Heidecker, Slipping Away. The most important thing about this album is that it is 34 minutes long, which I think is really cool because that's sort of the perfect length for a long album that's short or a short album that's long. I went into the archives and I found other albums that are 34 minutes long, which I think is pretty cool. Johnny Cash at San Quentin, that's 34 minutes long. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, a classic, 34 minutes long. Black Sabbath, Master of Reality, great album. And the Beatles, Revolver, 34 minutes long. So I thought that was pretty cool. Thank you for watching. I will be back next week to review the new album by... I'm just goofing. If you got that joke, you're loving what I'm doing. If you didn't get that joke, you're wondering, what is this joke? I'll get to it. This is actually the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who really put a lot of effort into that bit, so I hope you enjoyed it or didn't click off. I want to talk about this album by Tim Heidecker. And really, I want to focus on like this kind of contradiction. It's sort of really... Did a bird just knock over my Warren Zevon album? God damn. It's okay. I have it on CD as well. Okay, I'll put that up later. You're next, Randy. The reason that I wanted to review this, I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but you know, it is simultaneously important and unimportant at the same time. It's sort of the most important and the most unimportant album I've reviewed on a personal level. So let's sort of talk about that. I mean, it's really all wrapped around the idea that Tim Heidecker is a genius. He is. I don't throw that word around lightly. There's not that many people who I consider a genius and I talk about as geniuses, but I care a lot about comedy, and I can tell you, especially his work on something called On Cinema at the Cinema, which is what my opening was a reference to, the history books will be written. And everyone will look back and say, oh, well, that was a Citizen Kane of a thing. I guess we should have paid more attention to it while it was happening, okay? But that's sort of what makes his music sort of unimportant, because it's like, I mean, you're already doing it. You're already a creative giant. Why do you need to create more? So just to give you an idea, you know, a lot of people watching this, oh, yeah, I love Tim and Eric's show, good job. You know, that's fine. That's just one thing. You know, I was listening to this music and my whole family was enjoying it. And my 16-year-old daughter was like, this is good, Dad. It's not like what you usually review. What is this? And I said, this is my gazpacho soup is here. She said, this is my gazpacho soup is here? Yes. Oh my God, Dad. My gazpacho soup is here can play. That's, of course, the great sketch that brought us the world of Paul Bufano from I Think You Should Leave. You know, every day I eat crab salts. I think his stand-up special is one of the best stand-up specials still. When I order a turkey burger, I order with Brussels sprouts, okay? I want to give things 5 bags of popcorn. I bought his movie, Mr. America, on YouTube. Do you know how hard it is to buy something on YouTube when you already pay every month to be a premium member? But I did that, okay? I spent probably an hour finding albums that were 34 minutes long. You can check that out. None of them are the exact same length. 34 minutes and 5 seconds is how long this album is. The closest was Johnny Cash at San Quentin, which was 34 minutes and 4 seconds, okay? But I mean, just to really give you an idea, I have more high points than subscribers, okay? This is my high points wallet. I have 130,000 high points. I only have 127,000 subscribers. So hey, if you like this and you're not subscribed, I need to get up there. So, you know, in that way, it's sort of unimportant. And just like any side project of any great artist is unimportant, because there's nothing that he could do. I don't think there's anything he can do that will be better or more musically relevant and important than Empty Bottle or Oscar Fever. And you know, it's so important to me because, yeah, that's true. But also, we have to care for artists, you know, like what's that thing that artists also are? Oh, they're also human beings. And for whatever reason, comedians in particular are, they're just not chill with just being comedians. I don't know if it's because they're laughed at, but whatever keeps a comedian happy, whatever keeps them working, whatever keeps them feeling like they're artistically satisfied, that's what we need to encourage, you know? So Robin Williams has to do a bunch of serious movies? All right. Jim Carrey, who, by the way, I'm going to ruin Jim Carrey's dramatic performances for you forever. He's just John Ritter. He's exactly John Ritter. Like, when he talks and he's being earnest, you watch, I don't know, Truman Show, he's just John Ritter. I don't know why they can't just be happy being excellent at one thing. But, you know, hey, Eddie Murphy's music is good. Steve Martin's music is good. You know, that's what we can hope for with something like this. A sort of a reverse David Bowie. And the problem is, or not the problem, but the thing that makes it so difficult, in particular with him, is it's not like Eddie Murphy, and it's not like Steve, well, a little bit like Steve Martin, that you just never know when it's a bit. I mean, Tim Heidecker himself makes his name off of creating characters with his own goddamn name, so that there's like at least 3 Tim Heideckers that I interact with on a very consistent basis. There's Tim Heidecker, the human being, there's Tim Heidecker, the on-cinema host, and there's Tim Heidecker, the stand-up comedian. They're not all the same person, but they're all the same name. Listen, I'm the same way. I'm not a particularly funny guy, okay? But I love comedy, and I love messing around with sort of the lines of what's real and what's not, and what's sincere and what's not. So his primary thing is goofing around with the truth and sincerity, and his primary thing is that, and then he releases music, and the music is dead ass. As you kids would say, it is dead ass sincere, completely sincere, totally means what it says. It is about him and himself. And like the first 10 times I listened to his music, I didn't know that. I couldn't quite get it, you know? It's like that Always Sunny joke, you know, who's it at? Okay, yeah, but who's it at? What is the joke here? And there isn't a joke. But you can smell it. He's not sure. He's not sure himself. And I don't mean to be a I don't mean to be a prick to somebody who I look up to, okay? You know, I've met famous people in my life, and I don't always like melt. If I were to meet him, I'd obviously melt. But I read a LA Times interview with this, about this album. And he talks about when he performs, like, he defaults to trying to be funny. As he says in this interview, my survival instinct, my animal instinct is always kind of to be funny. So, like, part of the awesome sincerity of this whole project is that you can tell he's struggling. He's fighting with it. He's trying to figure out, like what is the line? What is my position? You know, very often I'll watch the Perfect 10 by Pitchfork. I actually I had that video on the Jordy Griep album, and I structured it around the Perfect 10. So Tim Heidecker does the Perfect 10, and it's like, what's he going to say? Is he going to be earnest? Is he going to be goofy? But he talks about the Beatles, Perfect Yellow, the White, Sgt. Pepper's, Hearts Club Band, okay? And it's just like, are you joking, dude? Is this a joke? Are you playing on the format? Are you saying the most obvious Perfect 10 of all time? Because when we were growing up, Tim and I are basically the same age. I'll call him Tim now, Mr. Heidecker. We're basically the same age. This was universally respected as the #1 album, you know, of all time. Eventually got replaced by Pet Sounds. But the way he talks about it, it's like he's serious, but then he also jokes. And he like does a whole thing of like, his joke is that he says the trite things about the great album. So it's like, do you really love Sgt. Pepper's, or are you joking on it, or is it both? So that's the issue, you know? He makes it very tricky in that way. He also did an interview with the Associated Press that I saw on YouTube, and I was listening to it, and my wife was walking through the room, and she just goes, is he being serious? I hear that voice, and I just assume he's not being serious. But it was actually this interview that interests me the most, because that's where he described the project. And that's what I think is the deep importance of this whole thing, is when he turned 40, or around 40, he started reconnecting with a certain kind of music. You see Randy Newman's first album back there, and then, you know, you got your Warren Zevon. I have more Warren Zevon than this. I don't know where it is. Someone must have taken it, okay? If you don't know where to start with this album. But probably my favorite is Bad Luck, Streak at Dancing School, but I don't have that in the archive. I just have it on vinyl. And like, it all snapped into focus because, okay, if your whole thing is like, I like the Beatles, ha ha ha, you're never going to be the Beatles. But if you're some dude living in LA who's funny and is good at writing a song, there are actually quite a few templates for you to follow. And definitely what he said was you could feel the humor in Warren Zevon and in Randy Newman's comedy and music, and you certainly can. They are sincere and they have a sense of humor. And they are so, excuse my language, fucking LA. Like, thank God I lived in LA for a year. Because if I didn't live in LA in a year, I would not have as much great music. You know, take another example, you know, Harry Nilsson, his covers of Randy Newman. Like, there's certain kinds of music that my brother, who I really like, who loves music, he just can't, it's like, everything just sounds like the Eagles to him, you know, like Jackson Browne and Harry Nilsson, you know, it's just like, it's just too LA. But this music is so LA, and I love this idea that he's trying to be in the tradition of Randy Newman and Warren Zevon. Because if Randy Newman and Warren Zevon were comedians, they probably would be very good comedians, the same way that Tim Heidecker is a very good musician. They would not be blinding geniuses of comedy, the same way that Tim Heidecker is not a blinding genius of music, but is of comedy. Right? You sort of get that, the sort of like music comedy scale, you know, 80% one and 20% the other, 90% right. But really in watching this, it's what makes this album important to me. Is that even though this is somebody who has achieved, like truly, I do not think anyone could achieve more than what he has achieved during his time on Earth. That I don't mean to be so hyperbolic, but it's how I feel. That's how high off the crab salts I am. But even then, he feels like I feel. You know, even then, he feels like he is living a life of quiet dignity. I use that term all the time when I'm talking to my kids about sort of what kind of life do you want to have. You know, I could have been a rock star scholar of 17th century French. I know that sounds like a joke to you, but it's not. Like, I'm a super smart guy. Let's be honest. I'm very good at writing. I'm very good at analysis. And there's a whole field of study of 17th century French literature. And I could have like gone in and I could have gotten a position at a research university. And I could have been writing books every 3 or 5 years. And I would have been a giant. And everyone would have known my name in the field forever and ever and ever and ever. Instead, I got a job, smallish public liberal arts college out here in Western New York, and I'm living a life of quiet dignity. No one's going to remember my name, but still, you can't suppress the creativity. So that's why I do this channel. This is that. This is my Tim Heidecker album. I'm already successful. I'm already a successful person, but I cannot stop it. It reminds me of that same brother I was talking about. He's a medical doctor, a successful medical doctor, very successful guy. But the dude cannot live without being in a band. He's been in so many bands. He did this rock opera in West Virginia with this dude. It was like, oh my God. The more I think about it, the more awesome I think that was. It was like a rock opera about like a special planet made out of music. He didn't write it. It is just great. You know, and right now he's in like a couple, at least one, if not two cover bands making music. And like, you just can't stop it. He can succeed, but he could do more. Or one of my Patreons, who's also a friend of mine, Mike Cooper, you know, he's a very successful art teacher. And then he like goes off and he plays in a Ramones cover band called the Hymens. You know, he can't be stopped. That creativity, even if you're a happy suburban dad, it can't be stopped. He interviewed Bob Mould last month. I'll include a link to that in the description, you know? And that is the kind of person that you can aspire to be. You know, you can aspire to be wildly successful, a titan of industry, or you can aspire to a life of quiet dignity where on the side you have a hobby that enriches you. You know, that's more than just drinking, right? That's not really a hobby. It's a thing that's happened in the suburbs out here where people think that drinking beer is a hobby. That's not a hobby, dude. I don't care if you know what kind of beer it is. That's not a hobby. If you're not creating something or doing something transformative, it's not a hobby. You're just killing time and brain cells. Sorry. and that's what I think is important, is that this album is proof of human excellence. That's what I want to study on this channel. That's what I like talking about. That's why I'm fascinated by all different kinds of music, all different genres, all different places, because fundamentally it's a humanist endeavor to talk about music, to talk about art, right? And people who are at the absolute peak of their field can also keep creating. We have 24 hours in a day, and if you are among that very lucky... Sorry, that crow was quite insistent. If you are among the very luckiest of us on Earth, you get to live like 80 years. That's a long time. But let's get back to the unimportant thing, right? I'm kind of boxing with words here. Je boxe avec les mots. You know, so there's like the importance of that I just said. The importance of being a hero for all of us who are living our lives with quiet dignity, but still feel like they have more creativity to give, and they just hit 40, and can they possibly start a YouTube channel that anyone would ever frickin' care about, right? Is that possible? Is it possible to interview Bob Mould? Is it possible to play in a rock opera? God damn, I wish I could. I gotta bug him. I gotta watch that again. But it's unimportant because, you know, like, do we need successful middle-aged white dudes making art? do they have anything to contribute? Like, did they come from a place where they literally, by birth, were given everything, you know, in terms of structural power, and then beyond that, they are now like sharing their random thoughts on their back porch with the crows and the cardinals? Or they're sitting there in California and they're writing about their thoughts about the election, you know? So at its worst, if I'm being super uncharitable, and this is stuff that I feel when I first heard it and I didn't know if it was serious or not, and I didn't know if it was a comment on what it was or if it was the thing that it was, you know, it had sort of that yacht rock feel, but not because it sounded like yacht rock, but because, like, I know that I don't know. The artists just aren't... A lot of artists don't have as much money as you think they should because of the vagaries of streaming and stuff. I would imagine if the world were a just place, Tim Heidecker would have yacht money, but or sort of like music that's like played at a food truck festival, you know, like where there's the band up there and they're playing and there's like the little kids dancing in front and just having a good time, you know, like that's maybe if I wanted to be dismissive, that's what I would do it. But truthfully, that's a very shallow take. The thing that shocked me the most about this album, when I really dug into it and when I really listened to it, is that it's good. It's like, see, this is why I'm a real music critic. I'm 18 minutes in, and I've finally given you my opinion. It's good. It's really good because it fits very nicely in the tradition of Zevon and Randy Newman. It really does. I think Randy Newman's still alive. Warren Zevon definitely died. He released an album at his death. There's a couple albums out there you can't listen to because the artist released them at the time of death, and you're just like, oh. I could do a whole video on that someday. You know, on the good side, you have Black Star by David Bowie, which is so good you can't help it. And then you have Yellow Shark by Frank Zappa, and that really feels it. But then you have The Wind by Warren Zevon. You listen to that album. Whew, enjoy every sandwich. That's what he said. That's what he said about life. And I think about that at least once a week. Enjoy every sandwich. Probably because I eat a sandwich every week. I mean, every day. Anyways, he really is in this zone. Now listen. He is more Newman. See, this was supposed to... If the Byrds hadn't knocked over my album, you'd see this over here. I'd have this kind of neat kind of dichotomy. So let's pretend like I still have that. In reality, it's more Newman than Zevon. You know, Zevon is cool and sincere, but he's more cool than sincere. He's a little bit more dark, a little bit more edgy. Whereas Randy Newman's a lot more kind of sincere and kind of cheesy as opposed to cool. In life, you want to be more like Randy Newman. In music and art, personally, I think you want to be more like Warren Zevon. You know, in life, I think you want to be more like Paul McCartney. In creativity, I think you want to be more like John Lennon. you know, that sort of thing. But still, if you're Paul, you're doing pretty damn well, okay? And yeah, so before I really get into the album and define it, so like now I'm like obsessed because I don't know what it is, but everybody who's talked to me about this is like, are you going to try and get an interview? I'm like, I don't do a lot of interviews. You know, I watched this interview with Fantano. I'm lying. I didn't. Anthony Fantano is great. Everyone knows that I appreciate him, and I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great gift to music. But when I saw he got that interview, I was like, fuck. He doesn't have any high points. Maybe he does. There's no way Anthony Fantano has high points. I should be interviewing him. And then I saw that Associated Press, and that thing got 900 views in a day. I could get more views than that. So if Tim Heidecker's people out there watching, I would like to have an interview where we just talk about Warren Zevon, and then we just go into your album too, like a Zevon and Heidecker kind of chat. So anyways, if anyone from Bloodshot's watching, hook me up. So let's get back to why this album's so important and why it's so good. Let's go with the stamp, the lead single, Dad of the Year. Click up there if I remember to put the what's that thing called? The link. Simple, fun chords, catchy. Very straightforward drums. I love the drumming on this album. Very Ringo, Ralph Molina from Crazy Horse, just straightforward rock drumming. I really like it. He doubles his voice, which he seems insecure about his voice, which makes sense because his voice is not super strong. But also, if I were in the room with him, I'd be like, dude, that's what makes you so great. We hear that it's my gazpacho soup is here. You know, we hear that's your voice. And it's awesome hearing you sing the way you sing. Anyways. And it's just this great chorus that has this sort of like little break in it and this great guitar work. It's just really nice. It's really nice. You know, yesterday I make pancakes every Sunday morning for my family, and I was with my 2-year-old, and I was making the pancakes, and I was listening to this music, and I know it sounds like I might be dismissive, you know, because I'm essentially saying it's good yacht rock music, but listen, some music is excellent and is not great to listen to in a house full with a family, okay? Can we recognize that it's cool that there's music that's fun to listen to with your whole family? I reviewed that Elucid album, that great underground rap album. Yo, nobody in this house wants to have that rolling around in the house, even though it's one of the best albums of the year, you know? And this whole like bridge with the punchline of Dad of the Year, and there's even a little outro. And do you know what I hear in the outro? I don't know if it's there. That's what I hear. I hear Elmo. Am I the only one who hears Elmo here? I probably am, because I'm potty training my 2-year-old right now. And I'm just... Let's try to use the potty. I hear this everywhere I go, okay? I open up my eyes. I close my eyes. I go to sleep. You know, the same way someone who works as a cashier, when they go to bed at night, they just hear, you know, deep, 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 deep. They can't help it. This is what I hear when I close my eyes. I don't know. I tell all of that because this is why the album's so important. Because, hey, I'm the Dad of the Year, okay? I'm the East Coast Dad of the Year. This feeling that he has of being so, you know, if you don't know Professor Sky Lore, you know, I do these videos with my baby monitor right here because I have to record. That's why I'm wearing my bathrobe, because I record in the morning. I have to wake up before my family to do these videos, and I need to see if she's awake, because if she's awake, then I got to stop the video and run up and have her use the potty. You know, Dad of the Year. Thank you. I want a song that says Dad of the Year. That's important. But what's important is that he's saying that in comparison to what he thought he would be. When I was a child, I wanted to be special. I thought I could be a big, big star. Then I saw how the world works. Someone like me could only go so far. You, Tim Heidecker, a person who I hold in literally the highest esteem, okay? There's a joke in my house, you know, thou shalt not speak ill of Kanye. It's less true now, but that used to be true. You know, that, I mean, really, a Kanye level, a George Lucas level person in my personal Mount Rushmore of creative people. He feels the way I feel. He feels like that. I'm never going to be on the cover of a magazine. I got bills to pay. I got to keep working every day. I'm not going to go down in history. Only my family will remember me. You feel that way too? the great magazine, I believe it's called Star Magazine, has a section that says celebrities, they're just like us. I am a sucker for those sections. I know they are exploitative and they pay paparazzi to take pictures of people, and I don't support it. I don't buy it anymore. But I remember back in the day, there's a picture of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez at this little playground. I want to say it was in Burbank, somewhere in Los Angeles. And I actually tracked down that playground to take my kids there back when I lived in California, just to do that, because I just found that kind of funny. Anyways, it's very meaningful to me that someone I love as artistically as much as him feels the same way that I do. Now when I wake up and it's still dark, I think about when I was cool. I record these videos at sunrise. Do you see? Have a cup of coffee and turn on the news. Have a cup of coffee. I spilled that. It's time to get the kids to school. I have 2 sets of kids. One set that's older, one set that's younger, so I don't have to take kids to school anymore. But I was just sitting over there talking to my 16-year-old as she was getting ready for the day. Had a nightmare. Talked it through. I'm dad of the year. Dad of the year. As I sit at my desk, it all seems so clear. The only prize I'm going to win is dad of the year. And not for nothing, but just in case, just because I'm here, just because she's solid, she's doing good. Just if you like comedy and you like literature, you really need to read the work of Franois Rabe. Is that retweet? No, Franois Rabe. 1532, he released a book called Pantagruel, and it has this whole conversation between a father and a son. It's really all about about the Renaissance. It's very funny and very dirty, by the way. There's tons of hard C words in old French, okay? In Renaissance era French. Hard C words. Farting, pooping, pissing, all over the place. Giant dicks everywhere. It's the most extreme kind of comedy you can imagine, and it's from the Renaissance in France. But this famous letter, he talks about the 2 different forms of immortality, that God has given us 2 ways to live forever. The first way is artistic, to do something creative, to make on cinema at the cinema, and then the second way is the sémence. I forget exactly how he refers it, but is sémence, the seminal propagation by having children. It's one of the 2 ways to be eternal. And he doesn't think he's eternal with his art. So what are you going to do? I'm going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker here. But the thing I really want to emphasize, that even though I've used terms like yacht rock and music playing at a food truck festival, Jesus Christ, that's harsh. I'm like, hey, can I interview you? Hey, can I interview you? And just the harshest thing you can say. But you know what, though? Whenever I watch those, because you know who plays at food truck festivals? My brother. You know what I'm saying? You know what? Screw that. That's no longer an insult. To all people who are in bands that play at food truck festivals, I salute you. Because you're still making art, despite the fact you know you're never going to be on the cover of a magazine. The opening track is called Wells Running Dry. Gentle and nice. Very sort of Neil Young style instrumentation, kind of country, kind of rock, sort of a cool organ rising flute sound, kind of Beatlesy on the chorus. And this is the peril of the album. Words don't come like when I was young. He starts off the first track of the album saying, I've got nothing to say. And this is that unimportant and important thing I've been talking about. He's got nothing to say. When you're younger, you live in chaos and you need to describe that chaos, and you're going through breakups and you're trying to figure out your relationship to substances and travel and work and life, and you have energy and time that you can put into different things than just how are you going to get your kids to school. And so it's this fascinating thing where he starts off the album saying he has nothing to say, and it's simultaneously true that he has nothing to say. What does an affluent comedian who lives a good, happy life have to contribute to the world describing that life? And then the importance is that he does, because it's that human excellence thing, because it's something that people can relate to. Because I listen to a lot of music, from 22-year-old kids from Atlanta who are sipping lean and at the outskirts of the law, which is great because that's a whole different experience, and they have a lived experience, which I get to see through music. But sometimes I could listen to music that reflects my own experience. He talks about hiding his voice low in the mix. And then in the morning, I know I'm better when I've slept all night. And that's just... So he's 1 year older than me, but we're basically the same age. And that really is true. I used to hate people who'd go to sleep. Now, the way I go to sleep at night is like... I think it's Donald Duck. The way he jumps into the bed, and like pulls up the covers, like that's how I go to sleep now. There was kind of a behind the scenes video of this, which is great, where you see him recording in Glendale. Like the Beastie Boys. They recorded most of Ill Communication in Glendale. I'm officially done with this bit. You can take it easy. I'll no longer do my Greg Turkington impersonations. Thank you very much. But it's great because you see him recording and you just see. I mean, I didn't need to see this to know it's what it's like, but he's playing the guitar and he's talking about how the key to it is how he hammers on this line, and then he doesn't want to play it. He wants his band to play it because he knows he probably can't play it that well. Very cool. Ask the drummer to play it, kind of Ringo. It's so earnest. It's so wonderful to see them play. It's great. It's a real feel-good kind of feeling. Next track is called Trippin' and Slippin'. It's kind of a simple suburban story. Talks about tripping on mushrooms at the pool, saying, I'm not worried about nothing, just soaking up the sun. I'm loving everybody. I want to give a hug to everyone. Well, I got to tell you, that's why the wells run dry. The wells run dry because you're doing well, man. Everything's pretty good. Everything's going just... And that's not a particularly strong place to create art from. But I do like how it's just a simple thing and it tells the story. And he's not trying to drum stuff up. He's not trying to say like he's going through a divorce. He's not trying to say he's fighting demons. He just knows that he's having a nice time. And later, the times might be less nice. Then we get to Like I Do. Oh, man. So he has a couple songs on this album that are not autobiographical, that are just sort of stories. And this is a really great straight-up song. This is really, I would say, the closest we get to an actual straight-up Warren Zevon, Randy Newman style. The guitar builds super nicely with the music, kind of Keith Richards-y, sustained, hammered-on chords, kind of stoned-like. And it's all like this failed proposal. And it's a little story. A guy proposes to a woman and she says, I don't think I want to. And then he holds her in contempt, and so they hold her in contempt. Your Honor. This builds some contempt within him, and then they break up, and then he gets married and then gets divorced, and then she finds a partner, and they're together for 30 years but not married. Sort of implying that marriage itself, is kind of a weak concept, and it's not living in sin, and it's possible to be unhappily married, and it's possible to be happily unmarried, right? But it's just such a well-written song. She said, hey, 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 well, that's okay. I don't want to lose you over something stupid like I do. And it's a great play on words because it's like something stupid like I do something stupid. And it's something stupid over saying I do. That's that kind of creativity. That's that Zevon Newman-esque kind of thing. Just because I'm in teacher mode as well, I just got to throw this in there. J.L. Austin, How to Do Things with Words, he talks about what's called a performative utterance. So there's certain words or sentences which, when you say them, exist symbolically to represent an idea, but also do the thing that is represented, okay? So if I say the word watermelon, that does not make a watermelon appear. But if you say the words I do, you are saying you agree to marry, but also you are then officially married. They are words that do things. So for those of you who ever have to go to grad school in the humanities, you'll have to learn J.L. Austin. and you'll have to learn performative utterances. So that is my gift to you, to raise your hand in that seminar and say, actually, there's a pretty interesting Tim Heidecker song called Like I Do, where the implication is very well there, that it is a performative utterance. And it's a silly thing that he does, but also it's a silly thing that he I-does. Then we get to the stamp, dad of the year, then we get to bottom of the eighth. I keep telling you, I'm shocked at... I'm such a dick. I'm shocked at how good this is. Who am I? Huh? Who am I? I'm shocked at how good this is. I have office hours. My office hours are on YouTube, but I have office hours. I have actual office hours. Only difference is nobody comes to my office hours. Did you know all my students are like intimidated by me? They don't want to come to my office and talk to me. They think I'm going to be a jerk to them. I love my students. I give all sorts of extra credit. Anyways, bottom of the eighth, it's a truly great song. It's just a great song. Really, really, really great song. It builds so nicely on Dad of the Year, and it's a really smart. This is great songwriting because it's about multiple things. Musically, it's great. It's in the same kind of zone here. I enjoy it. But really what I love is it talks about how he goes to a baseball game with his daughter, and he doesn't follow the team too much, and doesn't really care, and is there for the mascot. And I love this because, you know, I'm a big baseball fan. I'm, you know, born in Boston, so I love the Red Sox and all that. But I don't really have that much time to give to baseball. I don't really have that much time. So, you know, I might go to a game here locally. There's a AAA team, the Rochester Red Wings. I'll go there with the kids, and I'll sort of pay attention to how they're doing in the standings. And then we got the mascot, we got Mitzi, we got Spikes, we got 2 mascots. It's pretty sweet. And we'll sit there and we'll just enjoy the game. And we'll head out after the bottom of the eighth. Dad of the Year. That's what it is, okay? The Dad of the Year is the dad who drives the kids to the Panic at the Disco to the Panic at the Disco show in Buffalo. Drives the kids to the My Chemical Romance show in Toronto and says, we got to leave before the encore because we got to do the 3.5-hour drive from Toronto back to Rochester, you know, or goes to the baseball game and leaves at the bottom of the eighth because you don't want to get stuck in traffic. It's so relatable. It's so great. But then that's not all the song's about. It's also about this ambition theme. It's all back to the ambition theme because he's talking about these players. A few of those dudes are going to be rich. Most of those dudes, no matter how hard they try, will work their lives just trying to get by. That's the reality of baseball. Beautiful, gentle horns. Something somewhere a little bit more ethereal, more gloaming in fear. There is a demon that is on Tim Heidecker's tail that is telling him that life is short and that he is going to die and that everything around him is going to die, and that does pop up in his comedy. Man, it's dark, okay? The story of like, seriously, if you've experienced the loss of a child, don't watch On Cinema at the cinema, okay? That's the little thing. If you haven't, okay, but it's too much. It's too much. It goes hard in the paint, okay? But something somewhere, this Hammond organ, and the singing's a little bit more, is trying a little bit harder, a little more Beatlesy here. And then it ends with Joan Baez, another super great singer-songwriter of the 70s. Bows and Arrows, I don't, nope, I don't like the song. I just don't like it. I don't like it because, listen, I hate Trump as much as the next guy. I hate what's happening as much as the next guy. And I think Tim Heidecker does amazing work confronting Trumpism with his blissful ignorance of 4chan and how it all works. I think he's an amazing work. I think his stand-up special is... His impersonation of Joe Rogan, the previously mentioned crab salts thing, is like one of the funniest things I have seen. I think it's the funniest thing I've seen about the manosphere and about the nature of what's happening in our culture right now. But this song is just too much. Cities burning, people, arrows again. Like, I don't really need a comfortable, rich, middle-aged white dude. Got some deers back there. Middle-aged white dude talking about how bad things are getting, because we have to just be honest. Things might be getting bad, but we're the last people that it's going to get bad for. You know what I'm saying? That's fine. Hey, would you call my mom for me? Straight kind of country song, kind of I think the chords are the same as Roller Coaster by Buddy Holly, a song which tortured me because I had a friend who played it all the time off of the Stand By Me soundtrack. He would just rewind it over and over again. It's a great song, though. A killer pedal steel. And then this is kind of a third-person song. This kind of builds on that last song because it's very clear. I thought it must have been like he was in Santa Monica and he talked to an unhoused person. No, he was in Vancouver and he talked to an unhoused person. It's sort of that song, you know, what do you do? But I like it because of how detailed he gets and the idea of an unhoused person asking you to call my mom for me. Would you tell her it's not an emergency? I've been living on the streets. I can't anymore go it alone. I need to go home. So this is a CD, but it's the side, but it looks like it's vinyl. So that's kind of neat. Okay, I got one more Monroe County Music Archives, but there's a song called Sloop John B on here, which is it's I wanna go home. You know, like he says it over and over again. And it's actually my least favorite song on this perfect album. Okay, second favorite, Caroline, more like Caroline, no. But it's like the yacht rock kind of thing. The whole song Sloop John B is like someone going out on a boat with his grandfather and I want to go home. So I don't know if that's on purpose, if it's another kind of LA singer-songwriter, kind of Beach Boys thing, but I suspect, feeling that I might be on some kind of shared wavelength with him, just based on our age and shared love of funny stuff, that this is a reference to that, but I don't know. I went into town, another kind of post-apocalyptic song, guitar, great bridge, cool humor on here as well. I like the whistling, very well crafted. The album ends with bells are ringing, just guitar and singing, and then the way the drums and the bass come in, it's amazing. I wish I could hear the song without knowing it's Tim Heidecker, because I would probably like it just as much. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's just great. And it's more breaking up. It's like things are breaking up and he's alone. The album's there. It feels like it's the album cover, which is kind of a very dark 70s album cover. The 70s font and an empty chair at a recording studio in Glendale. But great instrumentation on here. This pedal steel, great guitar solo, and then that existential dread that appears to be nipping at his heels at all times. Ladies and gentlemen, the comedic stylings of Tim Heidecker. Everything old was young. Everything young someday dies. There's a 1430 in Florence, Italy. Masaccio essentially started the Renaissance with this kind of mural fresco that he did on the wall. That's what a fresco is, of Jesus and the money takers and the tax collectors, you know. And it's this great scene, and it's got like perspective, and it's got sort of humanity to it, and it's got a sort of the humanity of it is what people see as the beginning of the Renaissance. But there's also a thing where there's a skeleton. He paints this really nice skeleton, and underneath it says the following thing: what you are, I once was. What I am, you will become. Memento mori, reminder of death. So this is essentially the Masaccio fresco. But then, thankfully, it ends with, I assume, his child. Actually, no, I know his child because of the LA Times interview. His child singing, but underground there's love growing, not a lot, but it's all we have, and it might just be enough. Because that's the truth. Like, all that existential stuff is true. We are all going to die, blah, 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 blah. But we have one transcendent thing. You don't have to believe in God. But if you believe in love, then you believe in some kind of transcendence, some kind of thing that goes beyond human understanding, and that's how we end it here. As it says in the LA Times interview, it came out because I felt that song was too heavy. I'm in control of what I'm putting out. It doesn't have to exist. It exists because I'm making it, and I can say whatever I want. So in conclusion, is this better than Empty Bottle by Dakar? No. He can't be better than Empty Bottle. You know, like, that's his gift to the world, is his comedy. That's his true great gift. But, like, Empty Bottle is as good as Warren Zevon. You know what I'm saying? So this is a beautiful side project. You know, I had it on autoplay, and it went right to the MJ Lenderman album, and it fits in with that. It really is a great album, filled with great songwriting, great singing, great heart. So I don't give grades, I give thoughts. So those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed them. I don't have my Patreon list, so I'll just shout out Mike Cooper again. Read that interview with Bob Mould, okay? Dude's a high school art teacher, and he's out there doing it. you know? And he's the dad of the year, just like me and my brother. All right. Well, until next time, is that it? Oh, yeah, I'll take a basketball shot. So, if I make this shot, I will buy another Randy Newman album on vinyl, because I only own that one right there. I've had a hard time. My mom really liked Randy Newman, but my dad didn't, so that meant we didn't listen a lot. Then my mom died, and then my dad bought that album for me. What are you going to do? Okay. Catch you on the flippity flip. I'm going to do it anyways. Tell me in the comments, what Randy Newman album should I buy? There's the camera.